be a good show, it should have stopped at the first season.
That's how I feel about this one comic called Strangers in Paradise, which I'll have to tell you guys about at some other point.
Yeah. Cut. Moon. So, Rumpelstiltskin's dad is Peter Pan.
Excuse me? Excuse me? I don't even have any knowledge of this show whatsoever, and... What?
Moon, you have the ability to clip it! Okay, let me see if I can do it. Hold on.
Wow. Everyone's losing it. Actually, since Marco's already...
I got it. I got the clip. I got the clip. Here you all go. Here's that clip for you.
Hoomst!
But yeah, so Rumpelstiltskin's dad is Peter Pan. To explain this, I'm gonna explain the short version that doesn't completely spoil the 6th season. So Peter Pan was not always a kid. He was not always a child and a boy. In fact, he was once an adult who had a child with another person who that woman disappeared for reasons where I'm not going to say things about. And basically when Rumpel was a kid, like, the dad had gone off the deep end. He was drinking a lot, he was gambling away money, he really couldn't take care of his son, which he had named Rumpelstiltskin. So...
That's already a cruelty right there.
I know, right? Well, trust me, he had a reason. He hated the kid. Like, genuinely, his father hated him. Rumpelstiltskin's father hated him. You know, I'm just gonna spoil it. So what ended up happening is Rumpel's dad and Rumpel's mom, we're gonna call Rumpel's dad Peter Pan, and Rumpel's mom Fiona. And not as in Shrek Fiona. I swear to God, not as in Shrek Fiona. These two, they had a kid together. And on the night that the child was born, the Blue Fairy and Tiger Lily, who turns out is also a fairy, showed up. And the reason why they showed up is because of the fact that it was prophesized that that night a savior would be born. And that savior was supposed to be the child of Fiona and Peter Pan. Or rather, who would be later known as Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
And Fiona then looked into it and started studying fairy magic and everything, and found out that the savior would one day be killed. Basically, the savior would have to participate in the final battle against the greatest evil.
Mm-hmm.
And the savior would die in order to fulfill this prophecy. And so Fiona she basically turned herself into a fairy so that she could then find who the other child born that same night with the scar. She wanted to find that child who would kill her son.
Mm-hmm.
And destroy that child. So she started going a little bit mad with it all. And then finally, Tiger Lily comes up and it's just like, after months and months of this, it's just like, hey, I have another way that you can get around this. You can cut away your dark magic with these magic shears that cut away your destiny. And Fiona takes the shears from her and instead uses it on Rumpelstiltskin to cut away his destiny as the savior.
Huh.
But in doing so, she ends up marking herself as the greatest evil. Because she's the one who ends up with the scar for it, through a bit of magic stuff, and she ends up becoming the Dark Fairy. Or the Black Fairy. At that point, the Blue Fairy banishes her to another realm, where she can't do any harm. And also at that point, that's when the Black Fairy starts stealing children. Because she's still trying to hunt down... Like, that's basically the thing, is she's trying to fill a void in her heart by stealing children.
Gotcha. Huh.
So then Rumpelstiltskin, as a baby, is given back to his father, and he doesn't have a name yet, so his father names him Rumpelstiltskin. About 10 years later, you know, they're essentially destitute because the father is a mess because he lost his wife because of this stupid child that he hates. Like, this child was supposed to bring light and love into their life, and instead the child destroyed the family. So he's drinking, he's gambling, and he's getting into trouble, and he ends up dropping off Rumpelstiltskin with a bunch of spinsters, because he claims that he's going to go get a job, he's going to get work. And, of course, he doesn't. He goes to town and he starts drinking and gambling again. And the spinsters are just like, your father isn't coming back for you. They teach Rumpelstiltskin to spin. That's how he ends up learning how to spin. Yep, the mom chose to do that, but also the thing is the kid, like, the father doesn't know that. The father just knows that his wife is gone. Because the Blue Fairy and the fairies don't tell him about what happened to his wife.
Very, very kind of them.
Yeah, I know, right? The fairies cause about as many problems as as Rumpelstiltskin himself. But so, Rumpelstiltskin ends up, the other thing is, the spinsters are like, there is one way to save your father, and that's to take him to another land. And with this magic bean, you two can go to another land where you can have a fresh start. And so the kid takes the magic bean, he goes to find his father, who, yes, he finds is drinking and gambling again. And he tells his father about, how they can go to another land and get a fresh start if they use the magic bean. So the father takes the magic bean, and the way to use it is to think about where you want to go and then put the bean in water. And so he tosses the bean into like a cup or something with water in it, and it opens up a portal, they jump through, and they go to a new land, which turns out is Neverland. Neverland is a place that was originally created in dreams. It was a place for children who wanted to escape, the dullards of real life, to go and have fun in their dreams. You don't age, you can fly, you can do whatever you want, there's no parents around to tell you what to do. But the problem is Rumpel's dad is an adult. So he tries to, go get some fairy dust, or pixie dust to fly, and it doesn't work, and he ends up meeting the Shadow, who, I guess, technically rules the island. And the Shadow tells Rumpel's dad about how he can stay on that island forever and, become young again. And that is to cut away the only thing that ties him to being an adult, which is his kid. So Peter Pan trades away his child to become a kid forever and live forever on Neverland. Which the Shadow takes Rumpelstiltskin away and drops him off back in the real world. And Rumpel's dad becomes Peter Pan at that point. And the other thing about it is, because Neverland was not supposed to be in a continual existence and wasn't supposed to have people living there, it now got this, giant hourglass that basically was a countdown until Neverland ran out of magic.
Eesh.
So then Peter Pan began using the shadow to steal children, because the only way to prevent Neverland from running out of magic and disappearing forever was to find the heart of the truest believer. And take the heart of the truest believer and put it in Peter Pan to keep him alive.
Oh.
So that's why Peter Pan's shadow began stealing children. That's why Peter Pan began stealing children. That's how you got, the lost boys and girls. That's why Peter takes Wendy and her brothers. So he's a villain.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, the writers definitely probably felt super smart to think that, no one would ever assume that Peter Pan is Rumple's dad. Especially because Rumpelstiltskin is, in his 50s throughout the entire show. And Peter Pan is, 14. Maybe 16 at best, but he's 14. But, yeah, and then later, of course, Rumpelstiltskin ends up finding a wife of his own and having a child with her. Except that before he finds out that his wife is pregnant, he goes off to fight the First Ogre's War and meets a seer who then tells him that his actions on the battlefield will leave his child fatherless. And Rumple, of course, as with all prophecies, they're never told directly in any way. So Rumpelstiltskin assumes that he's going to die on the battlefield, so he hobbles himself. He ends up destroying his leg so that he can never use it again, so that he'd be injured and sent home from the war. But it ends up branding him as a coward. And so everyone assumes that he's a coward, and his wife no longer wants to be with him because, he refused to fight in the war because he was trying to put his family first. Eventually the mother ends up leaving him for Captain Hook, which is how Rumpelstiltskin becomes the crocodile.
Oh.
Yep. Because Captain Hook originally was just a pirate, before he was trapped in Neverland, and became the primary adversary of Peter Pan. So Captain Hook,
Does Rumple know that Peter Pan is his father?
No, because, he aged down, and he ended up finding out later. I'm sorry, my keyboard is on the ground. But no, he ends up finding out a bit later, putting two and two together and figuring out that, oh, Peter Pan is my father. Got it. Cool. I'm still gonna kill him. Because I have no love for him. Meow.
So, by any chance, do you remember where we left the ship?
No. I don't know where we left the Raleigh Dodger. Nina.
Thought it was right here. Oh, maybe it's more. All right, I think it's past this. Past this little. Oh,
yeah,
hello.
so Rumple ends up
It's just a behemoth out in the wild.
Yeah, what the heck? Yeah, so Rumple ends up losing his wife to Captain Hook, and then in order to protect his son from being recruited into the Ogre's War, he becomes the Dark One. He kills the prior Dark One and absorbs his power. So now he has dark magic, and he wipes out all the ogres. He ends the Ogre Wars by wiping out all the ogres. He also uses the same magic to go and try and win his wife back. I know, right? Poor Shrek. But he tries to go win his wife back, but his wife doesn't want to go with him because she's in love with Captain Hook. So they do a duel, and Rumpelstiltskin wins, obviously. But Rumpelstiltskin was going to rip out Hook's heart and destroy it. And his wife got in the way. She protected Captain Hook, and her heart was instead destroyed, and she was killed. And Hook tried to, stab Rumple through, and Rumple took his hand. Cut off his hand, thus becoming the crocodile. Because the other thing about it is the weird thing that happens with the dark ones is their skin changes so that they have scales. In Rumple's case, they were scales of gold. But it made him look reptilian. So, crocodile. And then that also set Hook on a warpath to get revenge on the crocodile for killing his beloved and taking his hand. But then Rumpelstiltskin also screws up because his son also gets a hold of a magic bean and is just like, let's go to a land without magic so you can be back to normal because we don't need to be here. No one likes you here, and I believe that you'd be better without magic. And so he tosses the bean down, and he goes through the portal, but his dad refuses to follow because he can't give up his magic. So then he loses his son. And that starts Rumple's whole warpath of finding a way to get to the land without magic, and having magic in the world without magic, so that he can find his son and be reunited with his son. But yeah, so, Rumpelstiltskin has a long story, and like I said, he is literally pretty much the major villain of the entire series. Because the other problem is he's so secretive that, he doesn't share his plans with anyone, and he never asks about getting help. So, he's always relying on himself and his own magic. God, Moon. Alright, we got 13 minutes, we gotta speedrun this. So Balefire is Rumple's son, who at first travels to our world, but in, the time of whenever it was, the 1950s or something. Anyway, it's the time in which Wendy, Darling, and everyone is there. And Balefire ends up being accepted into the family of the Darlings, so he ends up acting as, another brother to Wendy. And then that's when the Shadow comes and tries to take Wendy away, and successfully does. And when Wendy comes back, she's just like, it was horrible being there because all the boys, all the children are crying at night. Because they don't want to be there, they're missing their home.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in Neverland. So the next time the Shadow comes to take all the children, Balefire sacrifices himself and grabs onto the Shadow and gets taken away. But he manages to get away and lands on Hook's ship. And so Hook kind of adopts Balefire without really knowing who he is and teaches him everything, and then he finds out who Balefire is, which is the crocodile's son. And he was going to use that to his advantage to get his revenge on the crocodile, but Balefire finds out. And so Balefire is then given up to the Shadow, so he gets taken to Neverland. Oh yeah, he's also Mila's son. Mila is Hook's long-lost love, aka Rumple's wife originally. So, Balefire gets taken away to Neverland. He spends some time there. He manages to find a way off using the Shadow, which then takes him to the realm without magic in the more recent times. And he grows up the rest of the time in the realm without magic. But when he's older, he ends up meeting a girl who goes by the name of Emma Swan. AKA the titular main hero of the story, who also happens to be Snow White and Prince Charming's daughter, who was sent away to the realm without magic to protect her from the dark curse. So Balefire and Emma meet up. They end up falling in love. They end up basically having a whole Bonnie and Clyde act sort of thing going on, where they're, stealing and robbing and everything for themselves. And Balefire ends up running into a character named August, who turns out to actually be Pinocchio. Who was also sent to the realm without magic with Emma to protect her and guide her until the day that she becomes the savior. But Pinocchio has never been good at checking his own vices. So he falls prey to, not wanting to have to take care of a baby and not wanting to be stuck with her all the time, so he leaves her and then comes back when they're both more of an adult because the fact that he failed his mission comes back to bite him in the ass. In that his body is starting to turn wooden again. But of course nobody else can see it because they don't believe in magic. Only those who believe in magic would see that his body is starting to turn wooden. So he comes back, he ends up convincing Balefire to leave Emma by the fact that August knows he's Balefire. So, Balefire, now Neil, leaves Emma. Turns out he not only leaves Emma, but he manages to get her arrested for robbery. And she gets put in jail, and she finds out she's pregnant. Yep. And she makes the decision to give up her child for adoption instead of keeping her son. And it's supposed to be a closed adoption, so there's no way that she's supposed to be tied back to this boy. And so she ends up having the kid when she's like 18 in prison. And 10 years later, that kid shows up on her doorstep. This is literally episode 1. That kid shows up on her doorstep saying, "I'm your son." And it's like, fuck, everything's gone to shit. I'm your son, and I need your help rescuing your parents. So then, the boy, Henry, takes her back to Storybrooke with all these stories about, how everyone there is a storytale character trapped in a curse that's erased their memories so that they don't remember their storytale characters. Or fairy tale characters. But yeah, that's how Neil fits into this, is he's Emma's ex and the father of her son. Who, by the way, her son has been adopted by the evil queen. So if you want me to lay out the whole family tree here, we have Henry, who is the biological son of Emma Swan and Neil, aka Balefire. He is also the adopted son of the evil queen. Now, Emma is the daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming. Balefire is the first son of Rumpelstiltskin and Mila. Mila escaped with Hook because she had a fling with him. Snow White is obviously, the stepdaughter of the evil queen. Prince Charming is just actually a random shepherd boy who was... He basically he did a little Prince and Pauper sort of thing, except he made a deal with Rumpelstiltskin to save his mother's farm if he became a replacement for his twin brother, who was a prince, who was actually taken away at birth. To give the king of a nearby kingdom who could not have children a son and an heir to the throne. So Prince Charming is actually, the replacement for the original son. Snow White's mother, Queen Ava, also had some dealings with Regina's mom. Regina's mom, Cora, is also the Queen of Hearts. And technically, she's married to the brother of Snow's dad. So technically, there is blood relationship between Regina and Snow. And Ava, basically... So there's another thing to it, is Cora, who is Regina's mom, has 2 daughters. Before she had Regina, before she was wed to, the Henry the Senior, she had a unfortunate dalliance where she was tricked into getting pregnant by a man who proclaimed that he was a prince. And oh wait, no, that's right. She was originally supposed to marry someone else. She was supposed to marry the person that became Snow White's father later. Ava exposed the truth that Cora is pregnant, and so the wedding between Cora and Leopold was called off, and Ava married Leopold, who is Snow White's father. Cora later, after living as a miller's daughter and, making flour, she later sneaks into a ball where she's exposed by the king, who is an asshole of a man. As most kings are in this freaking show. But she's exposed by the king as being, a commoner who snuck into a royal ball, and she then makes the proclamation that she can spin straw into gold, which is then she is locked into a tower overnight and given the task of spinning straw into gold by morning. That's when Rumpelstiltskin shows up and, teaches her magic and teaches her how to do that. And by doing that, she ends up marrying Henry, who is the available prince at that time. But, as I said, Cora had been pregnant before, and she gave up her daughter, her first daughter, and sent her away to another realm because she would never be able to basically get what she wanted if she was pregnant. And that older daughter became the Wicked Witch in Oz. Who then, let's make this more complicated. So when the Wicked Witch finally comes back into the story, she is also another character who's just a problem character because she never seems to do anything right for her, in her life. She always makes bad decisions. And there's, this love prophecy, supposedly, that Regina would find a new love in her life, which is Robin Hood. Except Robin Hood also has Maid Marian. And through some hocus-pocus, wickety-whack, Marian originally died. Regina originally killed her. But because of some time loop bullshit, she's alive again. She comes back and is alive, and so Robin is now conflicted between Marian, who is his original love and his wife, or Regina, who is his new love. Yep, it is basically a soap opera. It really breaks down to that, except you add more magic and hocus pocus to it. But yeah, so Robin eventually, Regina gives him up, and Robin leaves with Marian because she's going to die if she doesn't leave Storybrooke and doesn't leave, areas with magic. Oh. What is that? What is happening? Oh no!
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What?
Uh-oh.
We are now inside the Leviathan.
We sure are. This isn't good, because we're at the ending point for us. Oh no!
Yeah. Well, I saved, so we're okay. But yeah, this is the ending point. You wanna wrap up what you were saying, or what?
Yeah, I'll just wrap that up real quick. So basically, turns out Maid Marian is actually not Maid Marian, it's Zelena in disguise, aka the Wicked Witch. And you get that exposed when, you find that out when it turns out that Marian is pregnant. aka Zelina, is pregnant with Robin's child.
Also, Layla is now not in our group, so I'm just gonna assume she died.
I guess so. That's really weird. She just disappears. Wow. Okay, when you awaken, you will discover that Layla's missing.
Oh, I guess we find her later on.
Maybe. I mean, we're gonna get another teammate before that happens.
Yeah. But alrighty then, what do you got for the coming week, Lefuulei?
Well, later tonight at 8 p.m., I'm going to be on Stray_Rogue's channel, and we're going to be playing Super Mario RPG. And hopefully I won't be tricked into talking about Once Upon a Time there again. Tomorrow is kind of a little up in the air. I should be doing more of the Kit Fox stream, but I might switch it out and do Sea of Thieves instead. Just because it did have a content update, and I kind of want to play around with that and explore it. It might be a little bit later. I might do it at like 7:15 or 7:30 instead of 6 p.m. And this is all Pacific Standard Time. Just so that I can get more people involved in it. And then Friday at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, Rogue and Moon will be joining me for Virtue's Last Reward. And then we come back around to Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern, and play more Final Fantasy and hopefully get through the Battles of the Leviathan at that point.
Yeah.
What about you, Coco? What's the 4 Pixels doing?
So for Pixels, Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. EST, Kime will be continuing Uncharted. Then on Sunday at 6 p.m. EST, I will be playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I will be continuing that same game Mondays at 8 p.m. EST. Then Tuesdays at 10:30 p.m. EST is Moon playing Blossom Tales, The Sleeping King. And then we return here, 7:30 p.m. EST with Final Fantasy II.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us, and hope to see you next week. Have a good
Thanks
night.
for putting up with my rambles.